Good morning, members of the class of 2013, families and guests, and MIT's orientation leaders and staff. At this time, I would like to ask you to please rise for the arrival of the academic procession. When this assembly has ascended the stage, we invite you to remain standing and to join the MIT corollaries in singing the national anthem.
Please sit down, everyone. I want to thank the corollaries for that wonderful rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. Great way to kick us off on this convocation. Well, MIT class of 2013, welcome to MIT. I also extend the warmest possible welcome to the family and friends of the new MIT students who have traveled here to help them launch their new intellectual adventure. The word convocation, which is what we call this ceremony this morning, comes from the Latin meaning calling together. And as you'll soon discover, however, MIT's culture is highly distributed. We're a vibrant community of interwoven communities. And since everyone here is on a mission, it can be hard to get them to pause. So it's not very often that we can call people together on a large scale like we've done today. Yet the truth is that MIT itself represents a remarkable calling together of scientific, technologic, and analytic talent. And this morning, I want to highlight just a very few of the many ways that you might engage with it. Your engagement here links you to the future and to the past, along exciting and, to my mind, enormously inspiring directions. But before I reach into the past and the future, I want to introduce you to some of the denizens of MIT's present who have joined me on stage to welcome you. Well, everyone at MIT, faculty, staff, and your fellow students, fosters undergraduate life and learning. The institute leaders gathered here have each chosen to serve particularly important roles in the undergraduate experience. Joining us are the provost and the associate provosts, the secretary and vice president for institute affairs, the deans of the institute's 5 schools, the deans for undergraduate education and student life, the chair of the faculty, and the housemasters of the undergraduate residences, whom you may come to know best of all. Now, I've invited 2 of these MIT leaders to share some of their thoughts with us this morning. First, our chancellor, Philip Clay, who's also a professor of city planning, and then our dean of science, Mark Kastner, a professor of science and formerly head of the Department of Physics. From all of us to all of you, welcome to MIT. Sitting here in the great embrace of Killian Court, we're also joined by some figures whose names and titles do not appear in the program. If you look up at the frieze on the buildings nearest the river, and I'm sure each of you has had a chance to gaze up at them, you'll see a band of carved names, undisputed pioneers of science and philosophy, mathematics and medicine, architecture, art, and engineering, Aristotle and Archimedes, Newton and Franklin, Darwin and Pasteur. When Isaac Newton was asked how he saw so much farther than others, he famously answered that he stood on the shoulders of giants. His giants, and many who came after him, live on here. Towering there, those names may seem abstract or intimidating. For many of them, you'll instantly know some of their contributions. The identity of a few of them in smaller letters may elude you. This list was assembled in 1916 when MIT moved from Boston to this Cambridge campus. It was compiled by then President Richard McLaurin, who asked the faculty and the members of the MIT Corporation to submit the seminal names in their fields. That history means several things. All of those on the frieze are decidedly dead. None represents the 20th century's remarkable contributions, and the list is further incomplete in its exclusion of those not white, Western, and male. With all the important names not included here, you could line another stately courtyard or 2. But if the names on the frieze feel dead and distant, it's important to remember that they once belonged to young people very much like you. Precise thinkers, capable of prodigious hard work, incurably curious, absolutely unable to resist a challenge, and absolutely determined to make a difference in the world. Let me bring down one of those giants to show you what I mean. Michael Faraday's name overlooks the river from the far end of Building 2, down on this side, which is now home to the Department of Mathematics. You probably learned about Faraday when you studied electromagnetic induction, and you would all probably recognize the equation that describes Faraday's law. You can even see it on t-shirts around MIT. But let me focus a little bit on Faraday himself. He was born in 1791 and raised in a desperately poor London slum. Michael Faraday, needless to say, occupied a universe very distant from the experience of most of us at MIT. Beyond the basics of reading and ciphering, he received almost no formal education. Because he was too slight in stature to be a blacksmith like his father, starting at age 14, Faraday spent 7 years learning the trade of bookbinding. But during that period, he educated himself by voraciously reading the books that passed through the shop. He read very widely, but scientific texts held a particular fascination for him. And with the encouragement of his bookbinder mentor, Georges Ribot, in his after hours, he constructed small scientific apparatus to perform experiments. Most strikingly, and astonishing to us and to his contemporaries, of course, were heirs to a Newtonian mathematical approach to science. Faraday was essentially a stranger to higher mathematics. The equations that capture his discoveries emerged only through the work of James Clerk Maxwell. Now, since I've just returned from Maxwell's alma mater, the University of Edinburgh, perhaps I should use the British pronunciation, James Clerk Maxwell. Now, as to Faraday's lack of mathematical abilities, I just want to raise one caution. While his severe neglect of mathematics worked out okay for him, let me strongly advise you against trying that yourselves. Paradoxically, with Faraday's preparation at age 17, he would have had a very hard time, I would say an impossible time, earning a place beside you here at MIT. Yet in important ways, Michael Faraday's discoveries made possible much of what we do here. And he approached his work in ways that I can only describe as very MIT. Let me talk about 3 aspects of his life and character that resonate deeply across this campus and that I believe have implications for your time at MIT. First, Faraday was a fearless, untiring experimentalist, the greatest of his age and among the greatest of any other. Despite his lack of formal education, Faraday felt such passion for science that, straining above his humble circumstances, he petitioned the greatest British chemist of the day, Sir Humphry Davy of London's Royal Institution, for a job in his laboratory. And thanks to several very lucky twists of fate, Faraday spent most of his 20s as Davy's chief scientific assistant. No doubt he learned a great deal from watching Davy. But Faraday perfected his superbly precise and elegant inventive experimental method doggedly on his own. Faraday was intrigued by theory, but he loved experiment. As he put it, and I quote, "I was never able to make a fact my own without seeing it. How terrified I should be to set about learning science from books only." In his experiments, Faraday followed his curiosity all across the scientific landscape. In his day, the first half of the 19th century, the walls that define the modern scientific disciplines had not yet been erected. Faraday and his peers were called natural philosophers. In today's terminology, we might call him a chemist, or a physicist, or an electrical engineer, or all 3, and still fail to capture his unbounded curiosity. A similar untamed thirst for knowledge without regard to disciplines inspires a great many people at MIT. Today, 60% of the MIT faculty are associated not only with their academic home departments, but with one or more of our research labs and centers, MIT's signature avenue to interdisciplinary research. 1/3 of our close to 400 engineering faculty are now doing work that engages the life sciences, and 14% of undergraduates major in more than one field, and I believe that many more are likely to do so with the recent introduction of double majors. Today, many of the most interesting problems are springing up at the intersections between disciplines, a gratifying echo of Faraday's roving curiosity. When the theories of his own day failed to satisfy Faraday, for example, the idea that magnetism between objects was an instantaneous action at a distance, he struck out on his own in search of a better explanation through experiment. He was always ready to let unruly facts dethrone the accepted wisdom, a habit of independent thinking that repeatedly put him at odds with Europe's leading scientific minds. But more often than not, Faraday was right. Through the brilliant design of his experiments, through his raw perseverance, his unlimited curiosity and independence of mind, he produced, as we all know, results worthy of several scientific lifetimes. He was the first to induce an electric current from a magnetic field. He invented both the electric motor and the dynamo, unleashing the power of modern industrial society. He proved that electricity is a single force, whether it comes from a battery, a magnet, or the fur of a cat in winter. He proved that, as he said, chemical affinity and electricity are but different names for the same power. He also discovered several new organic compounds, including benzene, and was the first to describe the behavior of metallic nanoparticles, paving the way for nanotechnology today. Even at the height of his professional success, Faraday retained an almost inconceivable humility about the limits of his knowledge. Ultimately, that inner sense of what he called his deficiency drove him to learn more about chemistry than perhaps anyone else then alive. How did he achieve his phenomenal self-education? By being deeply engaged at the very frontier of contemporary scientific research. Now, unfortunately, we cannot all be Faradays, but as students at MIT, you can all experience frontier-breaking research through our Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, or UROP. By graduation, more than 80% of MIT students seize this chance to work side by side with our faculty, and I strongly encourage you to do the same as early in your time at MIT as possible. The second striking aspect of Faraday's life is that he took it upon himself to become a wonderful teacher. At a time when the phenomena of nature seemed to most people more or less like magic, London high society in the 1820s thirsted for the knowledge of natural philosophy, or at least for entertaining lectures on new discoveries. By 1825, Faraday had been named director of the laboratory at the Royal Institution, and to stabilize the institution's disastrous financial condition, he launched 2 series of paid public lectures, his Friday evening discourses for adults, and the Christmas lectures for children, in which he broke open the mysteries of ordinary physical phenomenon and used everyday examples, most famously the burning of a candle, to illuminate the great principles of science. He crafted thoughtful, beautifully organized lectures that would have been YouTube ready. He burst iron bottles with freezing water, exploded a hydrogen balloon with an electric spark, and made his, of course, hair stand on end with electric current. Memorable, certainly, but how good were Faraday's lectures? Apparently, good enough to write home about. Here's part of a letter from a young American scientist visiting London in 1832, as he wrote to his other brother back in America. Faraday is at present on electricity at the Royal Institution. Yesterday he was melting metals, etc., by the most powerful battery I ever beheld, with 2 enormous machines in full action. 3 days ago it was electrical light, and a more successful and splendid series of experiments could not be performed by anyone. Faraday's style of lecturing and experimenting reminds one of Paganini's playing, so easy, so adroit, so much execution. When I listen to his fluent and eloquent delivery, my thoughts wander home to you, William, and with tenderness and with a sweet pride, I think of the greater powers possessed by my own dear brother. Yes, William, I have already heard several lecturers reputed among the best in Europe, and I will vouch for it, that with equal aids, you shall outshine them all. 30 years later, that gifted brother William Barton Rogers, would go on to found MIT. As you will soon discover, the great privilege of an MIT education is the opportunity to hear and talk with and work alongside the remarkable members of our faculty, among the most invigorating minds you will ever meet. Some have Faraday's flair for the spectacular lecture. Some teach in less explosive ways. But whether they teach engineering, economics, or English, astrophysics, architecture, or art, they are all masters of their disciplines. They have each cut a path to the frontier in their fields. And I will tell you that the students who get the most out of their MIT education have come to know at least one member of the faculty very well. I would urge you to make that one of your goals for your first year at MIT. Let me touch on one final aspect of Faraday's life, his long record of public service. As a young man, Faraday helped his mentor, Sir Humphrey Davy, devise a coal miner's lamp that reduced the risk of triggering coal mine explosions. Later, at the request of the British government, Faraday spent many years working to improve the refracting glass for telescopes and other optical instruments. And throughout his career, he produced highly practical research on dozens of questions, from how to preserve artifacts in the British Museum to how to prevent dry rot in ships. A commitment to tackling humanity's great practical challenges also defines MIT. That spirit thrives here in many realms. The MIT Energy Initiative aims to invent the technologies and shape the policies that will lead to a low-carbon future, while the Computer Science and AI Lab shapes the gleaming cloud of our shared digital future. Together, MIT scientists and engineers are inventing new strategies against terrible diseases, from autism and Alzheimer's to cancer and AIDS. Our architects and planners are designing tomorrow's green cities, while researchers at the Sloan School test new models for sustainable business. Economists and engineers are creating innovative ways to tackle the challenges of life in the developing world, from the Jameel Poverty Action Lab to the deliberately low-tech ideas competition. And of course, the remarkable fundamental work of basic discovery that doesn't translate into obvious practical outcomes represents an enduring and critically important service to humankind. Public service is much on my mind, underscored by yesterday's farewell to Senator Ted Kennedy. In his eulogy, President Obama reflected on our responsibility and exhorted us to strive at all costs to make a better world, so that someday, if we are blessed with the chance to look back on our time here, we can know that we spent it well, that we made a difference, that our fleeting presence had a lasting impact on the lives of other human beings. I truly believe that skills and knowledge that we share as members of this uncommon community come with a responsibility to use them for the public good, and I hope you feel the same way. As an experimentalist, as a teacher, as a servant of the public interest, Faraday's impact in his own day was enormous, and the links that he added to the great chain of discovery connect to work at MIT every day. Thanks to Faraday, we have electronics, microwaves, lasers. Thanks to Faraday's law, Professor Carol Livermore in mechanical engineering is developing micron-sized electric power generators that may someday replace batteries for energy storage. Thanks to Faraday's study of electrolysis, chemistry professor Dan Nacera identified a new catalyst to split water for energy storage. Thanks to Faraday, physics professor Marin Soljacek developed a system of wireless recharging of electronic devices. In effect, without Faraday, we would be powerless. Let us remember that he is united with us not only by what he achieved, but by how he achieved it. His fascination with nature and his endless capacity for good old-fashioned hard work, his daring intellectual leaps and painstaking experimentation, his patient attention and impatient creativity, his irrepressible desire to help others see as clearly as he did and to use his knowledge for the good of all. 5 years ago, I was a newcomer here at MIT myself, and I felt very lucky to join this remarkable community. After enduring last year's admissions process, you probably feel lucky to be here too. But let me be very clear. It is our great good fortune that you chose MIT. Finding the truth is hard work. So is inventing the future. We need all of your patient attention and impatient creativity as together we tackle the great shared problems of humankind. So thank you for joining us at MIT. As Michael Faraday used to say at the conclusion of his Christmas lectures, I wish that you may, in your generation, be fit to compare to a candle, that you may, like it, shine as lights to those about you. With those timeless words, I welcome you to MIT.
President Hockfield, on behalf of the orientation staff, we the orientation coordinators are proud to present to you this convocation book containing the names of the 1,074 freshmen in the class of 2013.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Good morning. I want to extend to all of you, families, guests, and most of all the class of 2013, my hearty welcome. We are called together today to celebrate two journeys. The first is the journey which all of you parents have made to bring your sons and daughters, the class of 2013, to this point in their life. The second journey is that which you, the members of the class, start today. We are honored that you have selected MIT, and we look forward to being your partners in the journey over the next 4 years and as part of our global alumni community that now is 122,000 strong. But before discussing your journey, I want to do two things. First of all, I want to ask members of the class to stand and extend their appreciation to their families for their successful delivery of you here to this point at this time. Please be seated. Next, I think it's important for you to acknowledge those who are not present here today, who have equal cause to receive your thanks and who have equal delight and deserve your warm appreciation. They are friends and relatives who are no longer with us, as well as those who could not be here today. But I want to extend a special recognition to the thousands of teachers across the country who have contributed to your education. And in your cases, what a wonderful job they did. But in all cases, we want to recognize the importance of K-12 education in creating experiences like this today. While we know this is a special day, the arc of your journey really does not start today. It does not even start with you. Let me give you a couple of facets of that arc that you might want to consider, both today and as you go through your education. First, there is the family. here in the United States and at homes around the world, both recently and generations ago, there were those who imagined how great your gifts are or would be, and how wonderful it would be if you could find a place that you could pursue the use of your talents undeterred by bias, poverty, or other circumstances of life. For some of you, this component of the arc of aspiration is old indeed. You are a continuing expression of the success of this tradition. But for others, about 20% of you, this is new. This is the first time someone in your family has made it to college. You're the first to realize the family aspiration of becoming a college student. And that is a wonderful way to recognize families, both those now and those who have struggled over generations to make sure there would be opportunities for you like this. Some of the work for your development started long before you were born. Some of it happened in your life, but it was invisible to you. However old or deep, the triumph of these aspirations are something that we celebrate, both in your case and as a tradition in this country. For all of you, hope survived, plans were made, sacrifices were made to achieve this day. MIT is another component of this arc of aspiration. The establishment of MIT more than a century and a half ago envisioned a place that would generate useful knowledge to empower America to shape and to embrace an emerging industrial order and be a powerful engine for national advancement and educational opportunity. This is still our mission. It has evolved. Each generation has enhanced it, and your generation will enhance it further. You've had a chance to observe MIT's evolution as a national and global leader. Some of you will say you envisioned it when you were 4. For others of you, MIT is a more recent discovery. Your aspirations as individuals and our aspirations as an institution are aligned. We belong together. So here we are today. You're here because grandparents, parents, teachers, role models of all sorts created a steeplechase of progressively more challenging opportunities for you to show your mettle. You jumped all the hurdles. Some of you faced serious obstacles and may have even had doubts. You overcame them and arrived here today. Now, I have suggested that you're on a journey. Journey is a powerful metaphor. Journeys have beginnings, waypoints, and milestones. Along the way, there will be surprises and distractions. Travel always involves a certain amount of risk and some discomfort as you move out of comfortable situations. Trips stimulate and reward curiosity. Journeys challenge orthodoxy and introduce new ideas and perspectives. In a journey, one meets people from diverse backgrounds who arrive at the same point as you do on the same day, but who come from different directions, by different means, and with different perspectives and passions. Your journey will demand that you be an agent of your own education. It will require collaboration and teamwork and trust, and it will require you to take risks with others. Many of your paths will be uncharted and uncommon. There will be complexity and ambiguity. Your journey will be onto an endless frontier. Your experience over the next 4 years will stimulate new passions, generate a new voice for you, and aspirations that you cannot perhaps even imagine today. And you will meet lifelong friends and partners, some of whom we hope will be members of our faculty. This should be approached with excitement and joy. MIT is a wonderful place to pursue this journey. It is a wonderful place to pursue your adventure. You will have a great opportunity to learn, experiment, design, communicate, collaborate, with some of the smartest people on earth. Our 1,000 faculty members are anxious to welcome you and to have you as junior colleagues. You will have a chance, starting next week, to work on some of the great challenges facing the world. And you will have a chance to build on the student life that will be a part of your education. You will have a chance to join communities here on campus and perhaps even create a few new ones. 4 years is not a long time for this part of your life's journey. This is one of the many journeys you will take in life, and we hope you will take time to reflect on your experiences here and in the past. We hope you will take an opportunity to depose your family members about their experiences and hope to gain some of the deep strength that made it possible for them to deliver you here today. I look forward to joining you on this journey, and I look forward to meeting all of you over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, President Hockfield and Chancellor Clay. Let me add my welcome to the class of 2013. My name is Mark Kastner. I'm the Dean of the School of Science, and before that I was head of the Department of Physics for 10 years. I came to MIT as an assistant professor 36 years ago, and I taught freshman mechanics and electricity and magnetism many times. So I've seen many generations of MIT undergraduates come and go. And based on that, I want to make a few predictions for our new freshmen about your time here and beyond. First of all, the faculty expect some of you to be geniuses. We've seen it before. Richard Feynman, who was the theoretical kind and went on to win a Nobel Prize in physics. Ray Stata was the more practical type who founded Analog Devices, a major electronics firm, and for whom our Geary building is named, is the practical type. Most of the faculty, on the other hand, were not able to get in. So we expect you to be smarter than we are. When I was a junior in high school, true story, I was working in a chemistry lab with a good friend, and we were talking about our plans for college. He told me that he wanted to go to MIT, and I gave some wise Alec response to the effect, I wouldn't go to a nerdy school like that. Overhearing me, the chemistry teacher said, Kastner, you're not smart enough to go to MIT. He was right. I never could have gotten in. And many of my colleagues have similar stories. So we expect a lot from you. But we also know that you don't have to be a genius to change the world. And what we value most at MIT are accomplishments that change the way we think about the world or improve the way the world does things. Accomplishment is the result of some mysterious combination of talent, drive, leadership, and luck. And some of our alumni who have accomplished the most did not appear to be the smartest when they were students here. So I predict that the most successful member of your class after MIT will not be the one considered the best academically while he or she is here. Because we know you are very capable, we will push you hard, and you'll push yourselves hard. For some faculty members, a student without a problem set is simply intolerable. And for some students, having 1 unit less than the guy down the hall is a major defeat. Some of you will not listen to your advisors and will take subjects that are too advanced, or you'll take too many. Whether or not you follow the best advice, some of you will find the first term or so to be really rough. But I predict that you will come out of that experience thinking about the world in a new way. You will emerge with the confidence that the world is predictable and controllable so that any problem can be solved with the new tools you have acquired. Whenever I meet alumni, they tell me that this confidence and this way of thinking analytically is the most important thing they learned at MIT. So MIT will change you, but you will also change MIT. 36 years ago when I arrived at MIT, only 10% of undergraduates were women. Now it's close to half. 36 years ago, our students did not think about public service. Now a majority of our undergrads are involved in it. Many of you will be deeply committed to activities outside academics, and because of that, you will become more interesting people while you make MIT a more interesting place. Through your research at MIT and your outside activities, I predict that you will change MIT for the better. You'll have more influence at MIT than students at most universities because MIT is so committed to merit and egalitarianism. You're here because of your talent and achievements. If you were sitting in a big lecture hall at Harvard or Princeton, the student on your left would be there because his grandfather gave a big gift. The person on the right would be there because of his prowess on the football field. When you attend a big lecture in a few weeks at MIT, the person on the right will be there because he was the best student in his class, and the student on your left will be there because she was the best student in her class. The faculty know you are here because of your abilities, so they will include you in their research efforts. They know that good ideas can come from graduate students and staff, but also from undergraduates, so they want to know what you think. I predict that you will get a research opportunity and you will be included as a full member of the research group. I predict that after a few months you will be calling the professor by her first name. When students join my group, I'm always a little uncomfortable when they call me Professor Kastner, and I tell them to call me Mark. You may find it at first hard to talk to the faculty. You may think we are all geniuses, but we're not. Let me tell you a story about that. I'm a dedicated but not very good tennis player. I play at a club where they match you, supposedly with people at your own level. After I play a new partner, he or she often asks what I do. Now, over the years, I learned that if I said I was a physics professor at MIT, there was dead silence. I would sometimes say, I teach at a small college in the Boston area, and I would hope they didn't ask which one. You will find that everyone, especially people from other countries, and most of all from those from Asia, are awed when you tell them you study or work at MIT. About 10 years ago, I was already head of the physics department at that time, I played tennis with a young man recently come from China. He was half my age and very good, and he wiped me off the court. So after we finished, and he asked me where I worked, I couldn't resist. And I said, I'm the head of the physics department at MIT. After a few seconds of silence, he said, you must be a genius. But then I was very embarrassed because I'm not a genius. There are some geniuses on the faculty, you'll meet some, but most of us have accomplished as much as we have, and you have to accomplish a lot to become tenured at MIT. Because we are members of the MIT community. In my own research, my greatest successes came from joining forces with colleagues and students. So try to overcome what will be a natural tendency to be afraid of the faculty and learn to collaborate the way the faculty do. If you learn to work together with others, and that includes on problem sets, it will help you at MIT and later. These are my predictions. The most accomplished member of your class years from now will not be the most academically successful one. You may have a tough first year or so, but you will emerge with the MIT attitude that you can solve any problem. You will become fully engaged in research and outside activities, and through those, as well as those dreaded problem sets, MIT will change you, and you will change MIT. Let me emphasize one thing. We, the faculty and staff, all want you to succeed, and we are here to help in the rough spots. A good place to start if you need some help is Student Support Services. We're excited to have you here, and we wish you all the best in this adventure. Before we conclude, let me remind you that President Hockfield, Dr. Byrne, Chancellor Clay, and Vice Chancellor Lerman will be greeting you beneath the canopy just behind you. And then families are invited to join the Dean for Student Life, Chris Colombo, and members of the Student Life staff for a reception brunch in the Johnson Athletic Center, while our new freshmen go off to residence halls. To close, I invite the class of 2013 and their families to please rise and join the MIT chorallaries and the stage assembly in your first opportunity to sing the school song, whose words are in the program.
Dressed in my dinky uniform, so dapper and so neat. I'm crazy after calculus, I never had enough. 'Twas hard to be dragged away so young, 'twas horribly awfully tough. Hoorah for technology, ology, ology, oh, glorious old technology, ology, ology, oh. Back in the days that were free from care in the ology varsity shop, with nothing to do but analyze error and animal talk. The differentiation of the trigonometric powers, the constant pi that made me sigh in those happy days of ours. Hoorah for technology, ology, ology, oh, glorious old technology, ology, ology, oh. Take me back on a special train to the glorious institutes. I yearn for the inspiration of the technological toot. I've shunned the physical path and chapel and all that, but how I'd love to go again on the scientific track. La 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 O M A S S A C H U S E T T S I N S T I T U T E O F T E C H N O L O G and Y comes after G. It's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Hey!